Good morning. Glad to be with you. Going to be talking to you today about you and your business, but also about what's happening on the political front, because let's face it, that affects your business. It affects every aspect of your life. My good friend Tony Powers, he's going to join us. He's a talk show host out there in Georgia and the Carolinas, and italkus.com. How are you there, Tony?
Doing great, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Awesome. What kind of stuff are you talking about over there at iTalkUS? But before you do that, tell us a little bit about iTalkUS and what's happening.
You can go online and listen to us any place around the world, italkus.com, and we also stream live for you on your smartphone. Just go to your app store, type in iTalkUS, and boom, there it is. It's a free download. Just enjoy. We pay the freight.
There you go. Yeah, people ought to check that out. So what do you guys been talking about on iTalkUS and also on your show there that you broadcast there in the Carolinas and Georgia?
Well, yesterday, President Obama, during his speech at that Coast Guard commencement ceremony, he warned that climate change was part of the reason behind increasing violence in countries around the world. And he says that this is something, it is the biggest crisis facing the United States right now, and we have to do something about it today, according to Obama. Now, you do a business show. You know what EPA regulations are doing to business across the country, and now they're trying to add on more and more, and there's a new report coming out, and I guess that's why he decided to use this commencement ceremony to talk about climate change, which just seemed so unreal to me, because he basically told these young men and women there that their biggest cause now is to stop climate change, not to protect the country, but to stop climate change, because that was going to be the biggest challenge they'll face.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I guess, there's a certain amount of evidence, right? I mean, almost all riots happen in the summertime.
Well,
so if it's getting hotter, surely we're all going to riot more. Yeah, it's classic. It's classic Barack Obama, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, he even claimed that climate change was partially responsible for the brutal civil war in Syria. And I'm like thinking back. Well, I guess it must have been really hot, when Adolf Hitler was about to invade France and Poland, and Genghis Khan must have really been having a problem with the heat, back in those days, and certainly climate change, if it causes wars now, I'm sure it played on the Japanese as they prepared to attack us at Pearl Harbor. They must have been feeling the heat.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. It's, and it seems to me to be all part of a smokescreen and a disconnect. And, I just can't even imagine 10 years ago, let alone any other, time throughout history, a president using the kind of arguments to talk about what's happening in society like this president does.
It's just amazing to me. And for him to actually go there yesterday and say, it's now believed that drought and crop failure and high food prices helped fuel the early unrest in Syria, which descended into civil war in the heart of the Middle East. It's amazing to me that he is blaming everything on climate change. Now, think about what Democrats do and progressives and socialists, as the president is. They like to set up these straw men or these crises that basically are made-up crises. And then the solution, though, is always bigger government and socialism. And so that's what he's talking about here. It's not that he's really concerned about the climate. This is just another way to gain control over we the people, to have bigger government and more intrusion into our everyday lives.
No question about it. No question about it. Speaking of, intrusion of everyday lives, yesterday, Rand Paul did something that it's not really a filibuster, but it sure looked like one when he talked for 10 hours and 30 minutes about NSA spying, and Mitch McConnell's afraid the country's going to go dark. What do you think about all this?
I love me some Rand Paul. I'll tell you that. And I was so proud of him yesterday. Especially Section 215 in the Patriot Act. they need to get rid of that part. The whole idea when they were putting the Patriot Act together was to do observation and surveillance on people who were outside the country and calling people inside the country, or people inside the country calling people outside the country who might be terrorist threats. It wasn't supposed to be data mining on everything that you and I send in an email, everything that we say on the phone, whatever websites we choose to go to. It wasn't supposed to be mining data on we the people. It was supposed to be targeted. A judge was supposed to be involved, and a judge would say, "Okay, here's a warrant. You can observe this person and that person." But it was supposed to be specific. It wasn't supposed to be the way it turned out to be. And as a matter of fact, a judge just this week or last week said that it was unconstitutional. So Rand Paul is absolutely right, and our founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves if they thought that the Fourth Amendment was being abused the way it is today, not just by this administration, but by the past administration.
Sure. This the Patriot Act was passed by Congress under George Bush, a Congress that was predominantly Republican in both houses.
Oh, yeah, but Obama kind of took it to steroids, and now all that's metadata. And actually, I think it actually really hurts their ability to single out people who are actually doing something.
I think so, too.
Look what happened in Texas. Down in those people were actually on Facebook posting that they were going to go to Texas and they were going to try to break up that free speech thing. Nobody was on top of that. And look what happened in Boston. Did all this metadata collection prevent what happened in Boston? No. I think they made the haystack so big that the needle is going to be impossible to find.
Yeah, they've made it harder instead of using common sense, which makes you wonder if their objectives are more nefarious.
Exactly. My point exactly, and Rand Paul's point exactly. Why do they need all of this data? They don't. I know they say, well, we only have 22 guys doing it, and we've only
all
looked
the more
at
reason to make it narrower. If you've got such a small number of people doing it, make it more narrow. Don't make it so broad. Yeah, it's very, very scary. It's interesting. In the end, what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to just extend this for 2 more months? And I've been laughing at the so-called Freedom Act that's supposed to curtail it. Yeah, let's have the communication companies have that data. Why are people comfortable with the communications companies having that data any more than the government having that data?
I don't want anybody having that data. Now, maybe they need data stored somewhere so that if they do catch somebody, they can go back and then find the evidence.
Build a case.
And certainly the data is out there. I mean, there's nothing that we can do to protect our data. Once you go online, it's out there, and somebody's going to be able to look at it. But the thing is, I would much rather have a company, if it comes down to that, having the data, and them and the government having to go to a court to get that data, than I would the government having it right at their fingertips, so that there is no judge involved and there is no probable cause involved in them searching your information.
Very good. All right. I am fixing to have to take a break. Are you up to staying another segment?
Sure.
All right. When we come back, we're going to have much more for you. My good friend Tony Powers right here on The Price of Business.